You define yourself as a perfectionist, and you've been one as long as you remember. And I bet that you think that this is just an intrinsic part of you, that is your characteristic, your trait. And I also bet that you're stressed and anxious, maybe burnt out, that you're scared to put yourself out into the world unless it's perfect. And that perfectionism is wasting a whole bunch of your time. What is if I told you that perfectionism is a survival strategy developed out of a trauma response from how we grew up, transgenerational trauma, the societal and cultural messaging that we've gotten from patriarchy, capitalism, colonialism, and from caste systems in other parts of the world? And I also want you to know that perfectionism can be healed. I'm a recovering perfectionism myself. And today we're going to look at perfectionism from the lens of fear of rejection, from the nervous system and trauma, and why just letting go doesn't work and what you can do instead. I'm Naomi Galinsky, a somatic experiencing practitioner, somatic trauma therapist, and nervous system educator. I came here through my own decade-long recovery from chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, chronic migraines, insomnia, IBS, and a whole bunch of symptoms. And this channel is here to help you understand your human experience through the lens of nervous system, trauma resolution, your childhood, transgenerational or ancestral patterns, and cultural messaging. I became a perfectionist because in my Japanese family system, so I'm half Japanese and half German in my lineage, in my Japanese family system, being extraordinary and smart and special was valued. And I would hear stories in a lighthearted, funny and joking way from my mom that when she was in high school or whatever age, she was in school and she got 99% on the test. And she got upset that she missed that 1% and would go to the teacher and complain. Or she would go home to my grandfather telling her test score, maybe it was 99, 98%, and my grandfather would laugh and say, I would have gotten 100%. And it's confusing because these stories were told in such a lighthearted way, but the message that my nervous system got was, you can't make mistakes. You'll be criticized. To be valued, you have to be perfect. So that is one way that I developed perfectionism. The other one was that my father was also anxious and silently raging, sometimes outwardly explosively, and that was scary. And if I was quiet and perfect and didn't rock the boat, that also created safety for me. There are many different paths that lead to perfectionism, but I just wanted to share mine to start with. Let's make an important distinguishment between perfectionism and striving for excellence. They're not the same. Although they look similar on the surface, they come from a different place in our nervous system. Perfectionism is fear-based. It's driven by shame, anxiety, and the need for external validation. It's driven by don't ruffle the feathers, don't stand out. And at its core, it's about avoiding mistakes, avoiding rejection, criticism, and the loss of safety. And there's never a win or satisfaction when something is driven by perfectionism. You achieve something and it can always be done more perfect. And the mind believes that if I make mistakes, something bad will happen. But the thing is, you will never get it right enough. So this is the nervous system in survival response, always on guard and hypervigilant. Excellence, on the other hand, comes from internal values. It comes from a place of curiosity, and there's flexibility, and we want to do well. But we also know that making mistakes is part of the learning process, and it doesn't spiral us into anxiety. Our self-worth stays intact when things don't go the way we wanted, and the body stays relaxed, and we're adaptable to changing situations. Many high-functioning people think that letting go of perfectionism means becoming careless, sloppy, losing your edge. But what the nervous system underneath is actually afraid of is losing safety, being rejected, being criticized. Before we make this purely personal, let's name something important. Let's zoom out, because perfectionism doesn't just exist in a vacuum. We live in a culture, in a patriarchal and capitalist culture coming from colonialism, that for thousands of years rewarded overgiving, especially for women, being the people pleaser, a good girl. And for women and men, normalized workaholism and burnout. Being productive is rewarded. Our value is tied to how much output we can produce. And it shuns rest, self-care, and having emotional needs. So this is patriarchal trauma. And perfectionism is often this adaptation to the system of feeling safety through being valued and successful, being seen as someone who's made it, or conforming to fitting in the box of the good girl, never do anything wrong, people-pleasing, overgiving. The nervous system doesn't learn this just at home. It learns it in the school systems, at work, through entertainment and social media. We get bombarded with these messages that we're not good enough. We need to look perfect, be smart, get a lot of stuff done, wake up at 5 a.m. and do CrossFit. We need to be fit and have the perfect diet as well. Stressful, right? On a nervous system level, perfectionism develops in environments, like on the grand scheme, where love or approval is conditional to what we do, where emotional expression isn't welcome, doing is welcome, being productive and busy is welcome. Environments where there is a constant threat of conflict, unpredictability, or criticism, and where being good, easy, or invisible kept us safe. And we need to remember that for a developing nervous system, meaning when you are an infant, when you're a baby, attachment is survival. If you don't have an adult taking care of you, feeding you, nurturing you, taking care of your needs, you will die. So you would rather change yourself, swallow your authenticity to be accommodating for your caregivers to keep that connection. That means that if your parents get stressed when you cry, then eventually you will learn to suppress your needs and stop crying so that the parents aren't so stressed. Because when they're stressed, it doesn't feel good to you. You want them to be relaxed and available to you. And what oftentimes happens in childhood is, instead of understanding, because we don't have the brain capacity and the nervous system to understand yet, that these are cultural messages, these are our parents' issues, we make it about us. I must be bad. I cannot make a mistake, otherwise that makes me bad. And so perfectionism develops with this vigilance of always have to monitor ourselves, of how are we perceived? How do we perform? How do we look? How much space am I taking up? Am I too much or not enough? And in the long run, this need to monitor ourselves and adapt and change to become who we think we need to be safe, dysregulates our nervous system, and this is trauma. And in the long run, this nervous system dysregulation leads to physical illnesses. It leads to burnout, chronic pain, autoimmune issues like chronic fatigue, cancer, Crohn's disease, fibromyalgia, a whole host of things. It leads to chronic migraines, insomnia, digestive issues, to name a few. So the body is paying a price for this suppression. And I want you to know that it's not your failure or anything that you did wrong. It's a survival adaptation that in the long run is not of service to our health. Knowing that, let's move on to the piece of how do we heal that. We need to heal the traumas, the unsafety that we experience through these messages from our parents, from the ancestors, the messages that our ancestors passed down to us, from the cultural messages that we received. And we do that in titrated doses. So we release the survival energy, the accumulated stress, and learn to feel our emotions in a way that feels safe. Because if you think about it, colonialism has existed for 12,000 years. You are not going to heal that in a few sessions, and probably not in a lifetime, but you can at least heal your personal traumas from your family system in this lifetime. But take your time so that your system doesn't get overwhelmed by too much healing and that you burn out. So, titrated releases, small releases of survival energy. And you do this with somatic experiencing, by the way. So I do somatic trauma therapy, and somatic experiencing is one of the trauma healing modalities that I use. You build safety at a cellular level. And at the beginning, it's not going to feel safe. It's going to feel awkward to make choices, to be okay with making mistakes, for being imperfect. And then when you work at the somatic level to feel that initial disturbance that it will create in your system, eventually it will settle. And then core messages will arise from your nervous system. Like, I'm enough. I'm safe to be enough. Mistakes are being part of being human. A part of me can reject it, but I know that it's not the whole of me that's being rejected. And I can survive the discomfort of feeling rejected or thinking that I am being rejected and still feel like I belong to the community. And through this healing journey, you will discover who you are underneath perfectionism. What are your likes and dislikes? What do you want to do and not? And can you stop a project without it being complete? And at some point in your healing journey, in the somatic healing journey, as you're doing the trauma healing and the deep nervous system regulation, you are going to discover who you are under perfectionism. What your likes and dislikes are, what you want to do and don't want to do. You will connect to your intuition, and you will see life as an experiment. You will have the courage to go out, explore, try things, fall, make mistakes, stand up again, and keep going. And at a nervous system level, at a cellular level, the new message that gets imprinted is, I'm human, I'm imperfect, and I'm still lovable. If perfectionism has been your survival strategy your whole life, then it makes sense why it's hard to let go, maybe even terrifying. It's not your fault. Your body's not broken. Your body has kept you safe, given the circumstances, given all of the stressors it has experienced in your lifetime so far. And healing doesn't require you to become someone else. It actually requires you to come home to yourself and to become your true, authentic self. If this resonates, I would love it if you could like this video or subscribe to my channel. It really helps my channel to grow and reach more people. If you're curious how I work and you want to work with me, then check out the links in the description.